Alright guys, and welcome back to the Two Banks of Four podcast for another weekly ramble about football. Had a sporadic week off last week for reasons I can't actually remember.
We have got reasons. First of all, there's two festivals going on. Our cameraman and Liam were there doing things that they should be doing. Tom also decided that he was going to go back to Liverpool, so we had to change up on that a little bit. But yeah, so we're back.
Replaced Aki with... So how are we going to do this? Every week we're sort of just going to get a different perspective on?
See who's available,
See who
we can drag in, persuade to come on.
Can't really take this one.
But yeah, Kallum Lane, welcome to the podcast. We'll edit in a round of applause right now. So everyone's going to think that we've got a nice audience, but yeah. There we go. Cal, tell us a bit about yourself, football-wise.
Man United fan, centre half. Absolute shithouse. Not really much technical ability.
Sorry, Cal, where are you from?
Worcester.
No, Dainsy!
Shout out to all the Dines Greeners watching. I know this man. He'll share it on his Facebook. He'll share it on his Facebook, and they'll all be watching. And I know they are. So shout out to Dines Green FC.
Yeah, DJFC, mate. Not the Worcester United part, but just DJFC.
Right. Anyway, this episode's gonna be a bit of a weird one because we missed a week, and it was in terms of weeks going. It was a pretty important week, especially at the top end of the table, and a little bit towards the bottom as well. So yeah, let's go back a little bit. Let's go back in time. So Man United. Let's start with Man United. Cal's a Man United fan, probably the most talked about club in the Premier League at the moment. It's disarray. They've just lost to Brighton. They've then been absolutely battered by Brentford, and they've got Liverpool on the horizon.
And then they decided to mug me right off.
Yeah.
I'll sit here, I speak badly about United, about Martinez. Fair enough, he played well against Liverpool.
And against Southampton.
Fair enough, 2 bad games, 2 good games. All counts on the next one, doesn't it? Let's see. No, but fair play to them. I think the thing with that Liverpool game was, obviously, it was possibly a poorer Liverpool side, but from United's perspective, Cal, you can speak more on this, but you actually played like a team with a bit of fight in you, and I think, for a team who I think that changing room is rotten, to then go and see a bit of fight, maybe the people like me do have to stop and we'll answer a few questions sort of thing. But no, Cal, what did you think about that? We'll start with that Liverpool game. What did you think?
I think they just showed a bit more character. Do you know what I mean? Like the forward runs, like the pressing, the balls over the top. They actually looked like they wanted to play. I think getting rid of Maguire, putting Rafael Varane and Lisandro Martinez in there, it makes Lisandro Martinez look so much better. Varane so much more switched on defensive areas. Like if the ball's coming into the box, Varane knows that's probably his ball because Martinez is obviously lacking a bit in the height. Martinez more, he just gets stuck in, wins the ball, and is scared to put in a challenge. So, and the attacking players look great from United against Liverpool.
Yeah, so
really.
that element of trust, like Martinez not playing next to Maguire. So
with Maguire and then Ronaldo, what's next for him? Is it obviously Ronaldo? Maguire's not gonna leave in the next few days. Ronaldo, there is obviously
I think he's got to go. But I don't see why you keep him. I don't see what he had. I get he had like 25 goals in the season, 30 goals in the season, but but like the way he makes the team play around him, I don't think it's beneficial for a United side with so many young attackers in.
You can tell how much better
long ball needs to be going
Bruno Fernandes is.
God,
yeah. It is a mental statement what you've just said, but I don't disagree with. I think we're looking more like 20 goals, not 25. But I don't disagree with what you said in the slightest. I think you are asking a team to play with that one player, and he has to play the way he wants to play. And I think if Ten Hag wants to do his rebuild, he wants obviously quite likes a young player. You're about to throw a lot of money at Anthony, but we are we'll see how that goes. But like you say, I think that's how United. If you're going to go through this transitional phase, it's got to be Ten Hag's blueprints and Ten Hag's players.
What shocked me was, and I went into that game. I predicted last week Man United 1-0. But that was me being kind of like a bit cynical, thinking Liverpool. I didn't like the way Liverpool played in those first 2 games. The lack of creativity shocked me, and I thought Derby Day under the lights, anything can happen. I'm a big advocate for form goes out the window under the lights in a big game, especially in a derby. But you could see in the first 15-20 minutes, United, the crowd wanted it, the players wanted it. They were running for the ball. They looked like they gave a shit for once. And that was like a complete opposite of the Brentford game. I don't know where it came from. When we heard about Ten Hag, he did the whole running. He ran the amount of miles that Brentford outran United by.
Yeah.
And, maybe that's encouraged the players to rally around him.
To be fair, I don't think that's that uncommon. You always hear Troy Deeney used to say Dyche used to do all the pre-season
Yeah,
running.
but
I think
it's a change for United because... But it's different when you got Sean Dyche doing it at Burnley, like a working man's club. You got Manchester United, who are a massive commercial beast. You got the manager doing the dirty work.
But to be fair,
with all these superstar
if
players.
you look at Ten Hag in that Brentford game, I think he was actually shocked, and I think that's where.
And you said, you rightly, you got some serious stick on TikTok.
Yeah.
But like what you said about that Brentford and Brighton game wasn't wrong. They were poor. United were very poor.
Even I said
exactly.
Martinez can't play centre back. I was saying it, and then he proved.
But it's all right, and I think this is a massive problem with pundits nowadays as well. It's all right to eat your own words and say, look, this is what we thought. We got it wrong. I, for example, just going off on a whim, I was an absolute advocate for Steven Gerrard when Villa got rid of Smith. I wanted Gerrard. I was bigging him up, and it hasn't gone well. I can happily say, I was delusional, made the wrong decision, but we'll touch more on that later. You can eat your own words. Gabby Abon-Lahore this week still going on about how Martinez is too small, blah 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 blah. But I think can't you just? I know TalkSport are a bunch of clowns and they get paid to say these controversial things to clicks, and they probably have meetings before the show saying, "Gabby, you're going to say this. Graham, you're going to say this." Yeah,
but I think it's more to do with maybe not admitting you're wrong in the sense that we weren't wrong about United in those first two games. We just didn't anticipate the sudden... Well, I didn't anticipate the sudden change. And I can now sit here 2 weeks on and say, all right, fair play. Awful start 2 weeks in, but now this looks much better. And maybe Ten Hag needed to get those first two wrong to realise... And I think that still stands by the points of... I don't know necessarily if he respected Brighton and Brentford, and he definitely respected Liverpool. And when he's done that, he's got a fantastic performance out of his side. And... I think everyone goes on about, we've said, for United showing character, showing fight. Sometimes when you're in a bit of a rut, you have to win like that. It was important for Ten Hag in his first few games to get some points on the board, and he was left in a position where those points had to come against Liverpool, and now he's got them. You've beaten your Southampton. You're now in a position where I think Ten Hag can put his blueprints down, and it's now up for, football and world. We'll see whether it works.
Well, that was the big worry for me. Once they beat Liverpool, brilliant. You celebrate the Liverpool win, it's a great win. Even if they were in good form, beating Liverpool 2-1 is a good win. But then you got Southampton, who've just come back from Leeds, being 2-0 down against Leeds. They got a bit of momentum about them. That new lad in midfield, his name always escapes me. It might be his name. Yeah, the American lad. I don't know.
Aaron, that's for Leeds. Sorry, that's for Leeds.
Yeah, no. Southampton's new lad in midfield. He's got like dreadlocks.
What, Aribo?
No. He's again Aribo, great player.
What? Lavia? No, the one for
it might be him.
Lavia.
We'll flash a picture of him on the screen because I'll find him after the pod.
Don't play the do your homework clip.
No, but like. He looks great, Aribo looks great, and Saints really, that was a statement by turning around against Leeds. To then play United, while United have won, and like we were saying, you're your own worst enemy when you win. It's like scoring a goal and conceding straight away. To then go and grind out a win,
a hard win
at
St Mary's.
That was the next hurdle when it was passed. Yeah. Now you look towards Arsenal.
I think now you've won a home game, you've won the away game, you've got the fans going a bit more. I think Ten Hag probably come out of pre-season a bit underestimating the Premier League, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, I think you obviously play your pre-season games, you're playing a lot of Premier League teams in those games, you're probably thinking, it's going to be a lot easier, we can play this way. And then figure out very quickly from the way teams like Brentford will press you, that you can't play that way all the time. Sometimes you do need to go long, you can't always play out from the back. And
I think the beauty of it is now, going into that Arsenal game, obviously you might feel differently, Cal, but I think you just got to compete. Like, if you come away with that with a loss to this Arsenal team the way they've started, but you've competed, I think that's a massive positive, and you've got 6 points on the board as well, so the pressure has been taken off a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So that's United. Obviously missed 2 game weeks worth of football here. Wolves. You've been to the Molineux. You've watched.
Yeah.
Newcastle 1-1.
1-1.
And then was it Fulham?
Fulham 1-1 was and then we lost to Spurs away.
Yeah. What's your thoughts?
I think we're frustrating in the sense that the new midfield, especially with Núñez, is we're competing and we're beating teams in midfield of the park, and I think that's so frustrating because that's so hard to do in the Premier League, and we get in front of, not even in front of goal, but you get to that last third and we look a bit numb, a little bit blunt, Hwang and Podence have had awful starts to the season. I think a lot of Wolves fans would ship Hwang on. I'd be shipping Podence on as well. But the positives are the board. We asked the board to spend money. They've spent money now. Looks like we're about to bring in 6'7" Austrian striker from the Bundesliga. Whether that works or not, whether that fits or not, at this point I don't mind, because we've needed a striker for probably 2 or 3 seasons now, and we're finally getting one.
6'7", is
6'7", yeah.
What's your thoughts on that? Because you look at the height of 6'7" strikers in the Premier League history, and what? I can try and name some good ones to wear.
Yeah.
Crouchy.
Yeah, you're looking at Zigic.
I mean, you're really grasping at the straws here.
I mean, but to be fair,
Moore.
I'll be honest, going into this window, I didn't know who this bloke was. I'm not an avid Bundesliga follower. If anything, I'm anti-Bundesliga. But he gives us another asset and another way to play. And when we had Raul before his head injury, Raul was a battler and was a fighter. Everyone always speaks about Wolves' pretty football when we had those 2 fantastic seasons. I bet Raul didn't come off that pitch thinking we played pretty football. He would have got kicked to shit.
Raul was top 5 striker.
So,
great striker.
But I think giving us a 6'7", with the amount of crosses we get in the box, and even if this guy drops in almost what Burnley tried to do with Weghorst, and then it gets our wingers on the ball further down the pitch, then we're going to be electric. We've got something to compete. We've got some physicality. There's definitely 3 teams worse than us in the league. But we have now spent £100 million, and with that come expectations. So
Neto Arsenal rumours.
Nah, nothing in it. No, Arsenal haven't got the money. We ain't looking to sell. He might go next year, but I think Neto. When you've got obviously everyone laughs about the Portuguese thing, but young players like Neto are listening to players like Matinho, who's been there and done it. Neves is going to do it. Nunez has just moved for £45 million.
Yeah,
true. These players have influence, and if João Matinho tells you the best thing for your career to do right now is stay a bit part of this Wolves project, you'll stay. Yeah, why has Neves stayed in a period that looked really bleak at the start of the window? And I think Nunez has come. I think we'll get 2 or 3 seasons out of him, and we'll sell him for more. I don't think we can hold on to him. But
and I'll repeat this all the time as the season goes on. The problem is for clubs like Villa and Wolves is these players are buying into the project, and Villa I don't think have got any players that fit into the category of Neto. I'm talking about a young, maybe Jacob Ramsey, but it's different because he came for the Kamara, for example. He signed for Villa, he's bought into the project. Probably a lot of Stevie G influence there, because obviously these guys growing up now have probably been idolising him as a central midfield player. And same with the young Wolves, young Portuguese lads going into Wolves. They've seen the Wolves large Portuguese Nuno through the years, and Neves success story, Matinho success story. But you'll get the years out of them. But these players, and same with Grealish, they hit an age where they're going to realise, it's like a turning point in their career where they suddenly realise they've got to move to get a trophy.
Oh yeah.
And if they want to look back on their career with a few medals and a bit of silverware, they're gonna have to bite the bullet. Even if you move into an Arsenal, you're still gonna get an FA or League Cup every now and then.
But I do get the players that probably do think like that, but they're never like just quite good enough to get that.
But equally, what's the pressure of getting to that level though? That you get these players in.
There's no guarantee that Kamara will get that move. There's no guarantee.
There's no guarantee. But you and I both know well enough. If he plays like he's played so far this season for the rest of the season, and we finish in a drowsy 15th place, he's not going to. I doubt we'll go first season because we got asked for a lot of money. But then you're under pressure to get a successful season.
What's Ward-Prowse?
But I think you missed the transfer. There's an issue though. We're talking way too specific. I think you have to look at clubs like, let's talk Wolves for example. Neto, we bought him for like £9 million. We've signed Chiquinho, who's done his ACL for like £2 million. Brighton, another club, they'll buy the youngsters because they know how the conveyor belt works. I don't have an issue with if Nunez goes in 2 years, Neto goes in 3 years, because the scouting network doesn't stop. I think,
but you've got to rely on your scouting network, and that's massive.
But I think I have faith in our. I have more faith in our. We've been linked to some great players. We were linked to Kamara, and we never made a move for it. And for whatever reason, something changed in our board's mind that they thought we've only got money with 2 weeks of the window to go. But like, I think you have to accept that is part of football. It's a business. There's bigger clubs. There's bigger boys.
It's interesting, and it's really interesting because you look at Brentford, Brighton, Villa, teams in that kind of vicinity where you expect them to finish. I'm not saying Villa are going to finish there by any means. In the middle of the table, trying to push. And the natural thing to do is you sign these young players from La Liga, from the Championship, Palace, bring in players like Elise and Eze.
Yeah.
And like you say, you bring him in. I think 20 million's a great price for Eze. If he goes on to do good things, you're going to get more money. And you look at the conveyor belt and you trust that your scouting network is going to do great things. Leicester have done it, Brighton have done it. Most of the Premier League teams outside the Big Six have done it. What Villa have done this season, and last season in fact, they've ripped up the manual and they've gone, we're buying right here, right now. Gone for Carlos, 29. Danny Ings, 29. I'm trying to think. Digne, 28, 29. Coutinho, 29. They're buying right here, right now. So the element of risk goes through the roof because you're playing more for these players because they're obviously on longer contracts and they've got no resale value.
Yes, no.
None.
Do you not just think that's Villa? Sitting your whole Premier League time, in my opinion, at the start of every season, Villa think they're something they're not. Halfway through the season, you then realise you're not something, and you do the same. You bought names.
So every club does that.
No, they don't. Villa buy names. You buy names, and at the start of every season, we all have to listen to how good this 20 million quid name is, and he turns out to be shite.
But can you honestly
rate all of your?
If we sit and went through our squad, could you honestly say that the names alone? Because I know Ings hasn't been great. You signed Danny Ings from Southampton. He's been firing for Southampton for the last couple of seasons. Well, they'd been linked with Spurs at the time to potentially replace Harry Kane when he goes to Man City in that transfer window. Danny Ings was not considered. You could not consider him a bad sign. The only question about Danny Ings was whether his hammies would stay fit and his age. Potentially.
Surely the other question with Danny Ings was when you brought Danny Ings in, where did you think Watkins was going to play?
And that's what I'm. We definitely thought it was a weird signing.
It was part of the plan, replacing Grealish with 3 players.
It came out of nowhere.
It came out of absolutely. It came out the day that Grealish left.
Yeah, it was about replacing Grealish.
I almost think maybe it was a massive kind of. They were trying to spin it in a positive light that day because everyone. Let's be honest. Every person at Villa knew, the chief exec, the media people, the second they announced Grealish going to City, the club was going to go into meltdown.
Yeah, of course.
And it did. Facebook.
They handled it quite well.
I think they did as well. They put out their video, Grealish put out the tweet, and it was done. But Facebook was in spirals because suddenly Villa had 100 million quid to spend on net. Yeah. So we've got 100 million quid to spend, and our financial fair play is basically which was worrying Villa fans, by the way, because we were spending buckets those first 2 seasons. Yeah. Suddenly you've dragged a line through it, and we've got a fresh, clean sweep. So you're thinking, Villa have got money, who are we going to spend? We need to sign him, Do you get one player to replace Grealish, or do you buy 3?
That's what they should have. 3 players, they said.
And that's what they said. Buendia, Ings and Bailey.
And Ings.
And could you say any of them have been a success?
I say Buendia, not his fault.
I think Buendia will be a success. But I
think Bailey was a bad signing though. Really, you look at his track record. He's always injured. Why would you buy a player who's always injured for? You're not going to get any real use out of him. You haven't for the season he was there. He scored a goal against Everton maybe, and he only scored another goal like in pre-season or whatever.
Yeah,
he's been a poor signing. Danny Ings not really hit it.
Danny Ings hasn't been bad.
Coutinho was good for half.
I feel like a lot of Danny Ings' problem has been the service to him has been terrible. And we're lucky players like Jacob Ramsey have come through because without him, God, that last season would have been dismal towards the end.
Well, okay, we talk about recruitment and clubs who've fallen in a lot of money. Leeds obviously sold big players.
The American Revolution.
They've gone for this almost sort of American German Bundesliga Red Bull rebuild thing.
I'm a massive fan.
Yeah, that Aronson looks unbelievable.
I just think you can't beat no matter if a player's got a little bit of quality, it's great. And all these Premier League players have obviously got loads of quality because they're in the Premier League. But there's something about having a winger or an attacking midfielder who's just really rash and pace fire, and he'll blaze one into Bro's head, but then he'll beat 5 men and put it back in the net.
But that's why I've always liked Jack Harrison.
Jack Harrison that goal against Chelsea where Mendy was fucking around with it. I loved that because that was just pure charge down. I can't remember the last time Villa. I keep mentioning Villa because we're Villa fans, so it's in my head. But I can't remember the last time Villa scored a goal. Just pure passion charging down the keeper.
I do have an apology to make. I'm pretty sure Leeds have already got half the amount of points I said.
But I think to talk about those players, that is evidence of the player suiting the gaffer, though, isn't it? Jesse Marsch comes across as that sort of bloke. He's going to encourage that to the hills. Leeds, Jesse Marsch has been trusted to buy his players.
I was going to say, kudos to the board.
They've said to him,
it's such a big, brave decision from the board. Backing the manager with his players.
It's very obvious.
If you get rid of him after 5 games,
you've got his players.
Suddenly you got a bunch of American, German Leipzig guys who like.
They did a similar thing with Bielsa, didn't they? They let Bielsa
Bielsa bought his players as well,
and that worked out for a while. That got them the promotion. So why change the culture in how you do things when it's worked for you before?
No, fair play to Leeds. I think we've got them wrong on the podcast.
Oh,
a team who we thought we possibly got wrong in the first week, but I don't think we have now. Bournemouth.
I think we knew it was going to happen.
It's happening, isn't it?
But then,
they're getting relegated. There's no more to say. They are finishing.
Scott Parker, and I know a lot of the reason he's gone is because of the comments after that Liverpool game, and you can't come out after you lose 9-0 and say, we need to be back. The board's not back me. The players are rubbish. This result could be worse in 2 weeks' time. You can't say that about your employer. I can't go into work and say my boss is a fraud and he needs to give us more money
because you dropped the package on the
I can't do that. So Scott Parker shouldn't be able to. But on the other hand, he's beat Villa, who everyone was hyping around start of the season.
Bottom.
Yeah, probably. He's beat a relegation rival in Villa, and then he's gone to City,
Arsenal, Liverpool, isn't it?
He's been beat. Was it 4 by City? Which
4
a lot of teams will hold 4 goals to Manchester City this season. Palace did last weekend.
Yeah.
And then look, Liverpool 9 that's pretty bad. But Hassan Hüttel's survived 2 of them.
I think Hassan Hüttel, though, he's always shown that. He's always shown something. I think Scott Parker's a good manager, but I think Hassan Hüttel tactically is on probably another level to Parker. I think Hassan Hüttel was very
possibly.
Southampton lost 9-0 in a season where Danny Ings scored like 25 goals, so it wasn't like a bad season for him.
Yeah,
I think the Parker sacking all comes with people in different directions, doesn't it? The board will look to give them enough money so they can hopefully stay up, but if they go down, they're not in the tits. The players then need a gaffer who's going to accept that, 17th is the holy grail, and Parker's sat there trying to implement a style of football, and he's probably looking 5 or 6 places ahead. It would be a recipe for disaster.
I've got 2 questions for you all. So first question, and both regarding Bournemouth as well. Are Bournemouth's board guilty, and do you think they'll be guilty of reminiscing on their 5 years in the Premier League and how well it went, to now raising their expectations too high now they're back in the big time?
Well, I think...
Because remember, they were only out for a season. For some reason, it always feels like... A lot of people on Twitter are saying, Bournemouth are always down there. I mean, they held their own for 5 seasons.
Whether it's... I don't know whether it's raising expectations, but it's possibly more to do with that job Eddie Howe did. Like, every time... The only criticism I got of Eddie Howe at Bournemouth is a lot of players they bought never got involved. Because you said those good seasons, but those good seasons always involved Charlie Daniels, Stanislas, players who Howe
Callum Wilson.
Players Howe worked up the leagues with. So you would possibly be sat there as someone on the Bournemouth board, and you'd think, for example, Wolves, they took Primophobia off us. Waste of time. It didn't work. There was loads of signings at Bournemouth. They bought Jordan Ibe. They bought that Spanish left back in for loads of money. He was sent back on loan.
What is that one that's really good off, like a Turby?
The Argentine bloke.
But my point there is that they possibly did spend the money in the past and it never worked.
They spent about 270 million or something.
Yeah, so I think they possibly do have a leg to stand on when Scott Parker walks in there and demands. He says, "Are you gonna waste our millions like Howe possibly did?" And if Howe can get results with those players, why
in the right system, they have the personnel to stay up. And then
Scott Parker's not going to play that system, is he?
A bit of an injury crisis at the back.
Sean Dyche screams.
Dyche.
Sean Dyche. Look at Ethan Moore and Solanke
a front two. Moore and Solanke.
Dyche will have them in Europa League.
That's a Dyche wet dream, mate. Solanke and Keith Moore. They'll be pinging long balls all day. Yeah. All day.
We're looking at Ben Pearson, like centre.
Yeah, Ben Pearson chopping people down in the field. You
only buy Ben Pearson to get promoted. I'm sorry, his job is fantastic for the Championship. As that in an exciting team, he can be that one player who's going to nobble someone. But he has got a redundant role now. Like
he's finished.
He just needs to recycle himself. Go back into Watford, son. Next year go play for Southampton, and we'll just recycle you every year. Like
okay, and the other question was Parker gone, Gerrard under huge pressure, Man City and Arsenal next 2 games, Lampard under huge pressure, massive game tonight away at Leeds.
I think Lampard's got a bit less pressure on his shoulders than
I don't think Gerrard has the pressure.
Here's the thing. as the game's evolving and the Premier League, the quality coming into the Premier League's a joke. Forest have just got promoted and they're signing European players of good calibre.
Can we all sign a petition to relegate Forest?
Yeah.
Do my nut in.
But yeah, basically what I'm saying, the Premier League's evolving, the players are getting better, the best players in the world are always going to now end up in the Premier League because it's where the money is, where the big clubs, the best managers are. Are the big name players who have got management roles off the back of their careers, Lampard, Parker, if you like, maybe got a boost getting into that Fulham job, and Lampard, are they guilty of now being caught out because they got that job on a whim, on a big name basis?
No. I think Gerrard. I think Lampard potentially. I don't think Lampard. Other than that mad flourish at Derby, no one ever speaks about his Derby job being a mad 2.5 months. It wasn't 9 months of Derby County. Yeah. You didn't look at Derby County and think they were the team who should have gone up.
Villa did a double over them.
They pulled something off.
3-0 4.
They pulled something off that was almost spectacular.
But
ultimately they still failed. Gerrard is a good manager. Will be a good manager. Villa are shit.
But what's next for Gerrard? If he does go, because we're talking in hindsight.
Gerrard needs to.
Somehow we can pull off a miracle and win their last.
I think Gerrard.
Everything's rosy again.
I think Gerrard needs to eat some humble pie potentially and say, I hadn't quite learnt my trade just yet, but I don't think it's over for him at all. I think
he's still young. It's not over. Where'd you go from it?
I think you go Championship. I think and he goes to a job where he needs to go to a playoff team where if the target is third and he comes sixth, he still sort of achieves his objective.
Yeah, I think it's if Gerrard does eventually leave, it's got to be like a Wayne Rooney. It's got to be you get out with the English media eye, you move abroad, you learn your trade there, and come back in England when you really back yourself.
Gerrard's left Rangers have got better. He's come to Villa have pretty much stayed the same.
I think Rangers have got better. Rangers are always going to be
they're in the Champions League. Gerrard
but they've only got Celtic to compete with to get to the position where they're playing
when Gerrard won the
Europa League.
When Gerrard won the league with Rangers, how much of that was down? I'm a complete novice when it comes to SPFL. I don't know Scottish football. How much of that was down to Celtic being rubbish that year? Do we know? Or I kind of remember Neil Lennon being in and around, so that tells me that something wasn't going right. And then obviously they've got that.
Yeah, I don't think you can
name
Postacoglu.
Yeah, whatever. Something like that.
You can't but that Rangers season you can't argue did they not go invincible? I don't think there's. I don't think it doesn't matter what Celtic are up to.
I know, Rangers. But you can go invincible if you make Celtic twice. You pretty much do. Yeah.
But your point. I think your point is with the ex-pros is they'll always get the bigger job than what you should get as your first job.
Look at Ollie.
I agree with you there.
Yeah. It's happened to so many
players. But
Rooney.
I think some of these ex-pros they've been communicated to by the best people in the business. You look at Gerrard, Lampard, Park. They're all leaders. They can hold themselves in the dressing room. They can communicate. I think Lampard should never have taken the Everton job. That's cursed. That was going to be hell.
Gerrard should have just left it for him. Lampard should have left it.
And Gerrard's gamble from Rangers to Villa was always going to be a gamble in the sense.
He had to take it, by the way.
Yeah. But he had to.
Massive job.
But he had to kick Villa on, and for whatever reason, it's not quite worked yet. But everyone's jizzing over this fucking win and loss percentage of Stevie G's. People forget that you boys had a big project under Dean Smith. A new gaffer come in, you'd have to deroot Dean Smith's blueprints, and then Gerrard had to implement his own. That'll take time to do, won't it?
Yeah,
I guess so. But then you could say that about obviously we all spoke about it earlier, but Ten Hag, people haven't getting Ten Hag to even get his
team.
So but you're saying Gerrard's had however long now to do that, and there's not really much improvement from what he was at.
Look at how at Newcastle. Everyone on about Gerrard giving you need to transfer winners to get his own players in. So that's bollocks. A manager doesn't need his own players to get results. You look at how at Newcastle with he did bring a few players on. Steve Bruce's team just transformed them.
Gerrard I don't know how he's got a bad side either. To be honest, I guess you can say obviously a lot of them are getting older. They're not in their primes. Maybe just coming out with it a bit more, but. He's still got a very good team. Jacob Ramsey, he's got Coutinho.
So, but obviously we just spoke transfers there, managers and their players. Next part of the pod, we're diverging into the transfer window.
Yeah.
So moving on, guys, we're going to talk about possibly the most exciting part of the season for a fan. When the transfer window's open, it shuts in
Thursday.
So as of recording, that's for 3-4 days.
It'll be shut by the time this is out.
Yeah.
So
3-4 days.
There could be like a massive. there could be a day. There could be a massive transfer. For all we know, like there could be a world-breaking transfer. We wouldn't know about it.
We're going to deal with facts. We're going to deal with what's happened. We're not full-timers, but we'll talk about what we've seen
First
so
of all,
far.
I just want to ask the question. I want to kick it straight off. Who is your? And we'll go into reason after. I just want your straight answer. Who's won your Premier League transfer window so far?
Arsenal, I think.
That's fair. Yourself?
Yeah, I think Arsenal's a great answer, actually.
I think Arsenal's a very good answer.
The only other team I'd throw in is Fulham.
Oh yeah, Fulham have had a
Fulham
great window.
I'm going Newcastle. It's a simple window.
I think
They've done what
Arsenal's
they
a
needed
great
to do.
Arsenal, very good. Just to change it up, I'd probably say. I think United. Now looking back, I think United have had a decent window.
The amount they've paid for some of the
It don't matter though. In terms of like when it comes to
100 million for Anthony.
Just pause it. Can we remember who asked this question and what his words were? Can I have your answer? No explanation.
Everybody said their answer. Everybody said their answer.
100 million for Anthony. That's like the football manager sort of stuff.
But but you've got to think when you've paid. The argument is when you paid £50 million for Martinez, are you going to let someone who's younger and attackers typically cost a lot more anyway? Like I think if you look at the pitch player to get your goals, you're looking at more money anyway.
Makes Jack Grealish like bar of the century.
Let's be honest though. People give way too much of a fuck about the price value. Like Man United and all these clubs, where everyone, they can pay what the fuck they want.
If you've got the money,
as a fan, if Anthony rocks up and is a world beater, you're not going to sit there and go, "Oh, it was 70-odd million quid." If he's shit, you're going to be fuming regardless.
It's different when
you look at Maguire. Maguire's only getting paid because of
especially if we're looking at it's different. I think you've come at that from a Villa perspective. I mean, you come at that from United perspective.
It's right. You got United and City. City spend 120 million on a player, which they actually don't do. They don't. They don't often spend over 80 million on players. They usually keep it fairly low. City spend that. You start bringing out the oil money allegations. They haven't earned that money themselves, if you like. They probably have nowadays. It's like we're 10 years on, 12 years on. But that allegations throw, and you're a bit annoyed as a fellow fan, because their owners have put that there, and they got in before financial fair play was a thing.
What was annoying for City is they just spend lots of money on players they don't need.
Yeah, agreed.
But
then United spend 100 million on Anthony. It doesn't, as a neutral fan of those two clubs, it doesn't annoy me as much because I know that it's United's assets. They've earned the money. It's
equally they want a player, go buy your player. Like football. We can't all sit here and talk about how crazy the price tag is. Like, if we're going to do that, we just have to say how crazy all the money in football is.
It's different for us. For
£1 million just to get a football player is crazy.
That is the game these days. That's the game we watch.
It's different for us because we know we're going to spend less than 100 million potentially in a window.
That's a window.
So when they spend 60 million on a player, you're looking at thinking, wow, that means we're not bringing anyone else in. United is different. For me, one of Arsenal's biggest feats of the transfer window wasn't even a signing they made. It was more the fact that they didn't go rash and splash 60-70 million on centre half. They trusted Saliba coming back.
And Saliba coming back basically as a new signing.
Yeah, and that's what I mean.
Incredible.
He looks insanely good. I know, and this is going to be the big thing when Arsenal play United. Arsenal, you could say they haven't been tested yet. Massive, like I'm talking about a really top team. I'm not saying United are there yet.
They haven't really had many really tough teams.
They had Fulham, Palace, and
Leicester.
Palace, I guess, are the best team they've played like that because Leicester look absolutely.
And that was Palace's first game of the season.
Bournemouth.
Palace hadn't got going. It was first game of the season.
But I think what's impressive with Arsenal is before the window, you would have looked at the gaps in Arsenal's team and they filled them.
Very well.
Especially with Saliba turning out to be as good as he is, and I think Arteta's formula is becoming really clear to see. He's obviously got such a heavy Pep influence, so buying players who he would have worked with at City and who Pep would have worked with at City isn't a bad idea at all. And you now look at this squad. They've obviously, if you watch the documentary, you've seen them massive on getting their age down. This is going to be like a 10-year thing. And
people forget how young Jesus is.
And they go into this season now probably with the majority of their gaps filled, and you're onto the conversation of either squad depth or a huge marquee couple of players,
maybe a central midfielder,
a couple of world beaters. Whereas Arsenal, you look at that squad 3 years ago, we were talking about top to bottom change, weren't we? So I think
that squad last year.
Yeah, I think the structure in Arsenal is good, and they've bought well, and their players, all their new signings have started well.
So he's actually looking really good as well for their team. He's Xhaka as well. I feel like he's like in the first few opening games.
Him and Odegaard.
Odegaard's probably my favourite player in the Premier League.
He's done so much already. He feels he's calmed down a little bit.
Yeah,
they're looking crazy.
But equally, Xhaka is one of Arsenal's oldest players now.
Yeah.
His role in that dressing room has changed. He'll be putting his arm around Gabriel and players like that.
Yeah.
It won't be... Xhaka can't be the kid that the press is talking about, and I think Arteta will be really clear on that.
I love the fact they made Odegaard captain. There's something about trusting a young player with the captaincy, especially once come from foreign lands as well.
It's benefited him loads.
100%.
You see,
he's a different player.
Like you see as early years at Real Madrid, or even before he moved to Real Madrid. Remember, everyone was talking about him. United,
Mate,
Real
we
Madrid,
would have been
everyone.
in year 8, I think.
Young at school.
My form group at school was in the computer room, so I'd be on BBC Sport every day. I remember seeing 16-year-old Martin Odegaard signed from Madrid.
Yeah.
It is nice to see players who are hyped up so, because he was every Instagram. Instagram was blowing up at the time. All the skill highlights are on, and it's good to see players like that finally making it.
But on transfers, so I think me and Carl both stick with Arsenal there.
What did you go for again?
I went for Newcastle.
Yeah, what's your thoughts behind that?
I think it's like it's just I think they're doing it perfectly, Newcastle.
They signed Botman. Who else have they signed?
They've signed Isaac for 67.
Botman, Isaac, Pope.
Target permanent.
Pope, great signing. Made Target permanent.
But they've done it perfectly. They're not signing these. They could have gone out and got like players like Coutinho, like you know what I'm on about.
Could have done what Everton and Villa do.
Yeah. But they just signed the perfect players that just fit their system so well.
They're
gradually getting better.
Yeah.
Nick Pope as well is going to probably be...
Can we just talk though, right? My friend, one of my mates at uni, I don't know this for sure, this has come from his mouth, so TikTok, just at Liam's friend at uni, said Isaac last season 6 goals.
9,
I pulled up his...
Maybe 6 league goals or 9 in all clubs.
Yeah, I think it was 9 and 3 assists.
I think he's had one season over 10 goals.
And you just said they're not signing the Coutinho players.
And it was a lockdown season.
Loads of clubs were chasing Botman.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying Botman's
good.
They've made but they're not signing the sort of past it big names.
No, they're not past it, but they're still big names. I think the Isaac signing is fantastic. It looks fantastic because we all watched him at the Euros. I still think that is possibly the biggest gamble of the window.
It's great. It's a massive gamble, but they got so much money it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Imagine.
it does also matter. It does also matter in financial fair play, and you're still pissing 70 million away. But equally,
but when they've only spent 10 million on Pope,
10 million on Pope, obviously fantastic signing. Whoever signed from Burnley this year was always going to get great players and good deals.
Look at how Ben Mee looks great in the Brentford team.
Even we've paid 20 million on Collins. That value's not going to go away, is it? Because he's young and he's got a chance.
Unless
to
he goes
himself.
right down the pan, which won't happen. Which doesn't happen for most of the players.
Everyone was always going to get a good deal off Burnley. It was just about who was going to do it. So fair play for Newcastle.
Cornets to West Ham as well. Good signing.
West Ham are just suddenly trying to sign.
Paqueta, great signing. Paqueta, very sought after player, and there's a guy on Twitter called the Euro Expert. You've probably definitely seen him retweeting stuff. Basically, this kid just he basically dedicates himself to European football.
He's never stepped outside before.
Probably not. He probably hasn't. You're not being serious. This guy, a player signs from a European league that's fairly unknown about, and he'll have a fact file on Twitter about him. And you can message him about players. I used to when I had a player
and Harry also hasn't been outside.
When I signed a player on FM, sometimes I'd message him saying, "What's he like in real life?" I did it about Josh Dirks.
I really hope this is lockdown because if it's not lockdown,
I had Josh Dirks at Bristol City on FM. I messaged him, said, "What's Josh Dirks like?" He said, "Great player, bloody well, got all the potential, got a bad attitude though." Yeah.
What, did he walk away? Did he? My praise for West Ham is they were at the door. They've been at the door for the last 2 seasons, and when you get to that, it can be really easy to turn stale. Like I'd say, Leicester have possibly turning a bit stale.
Wolves
we did. Whereas West Ham are looking face to face with this door now, and they're going to give it their best shot to kick it down. You know, they've gone and got Skamaka. They're spending Paqueta. What's his name? Paqueta.
Lucas Paqueta
could go up to 60 million quid. You know, I think.
You look at the players they've already got as well.
And obviously keeping Rice is
Bowen as well.
Right, the players they've held on to is fantastic. And again, I think they're another team looking at their gaps. Obviously, Cresswell's been fantastic, but that left back position probably needed another player. They've gone and got Emerson in from Chelsea.
I'm not sure about how good he'll be but I guess he's just playing the wing back. But I'm not sure on how.
But they'll give him a go. So no, I massively rate West Ham for staying ambitious, staying competitive. It's something I wish Wolves had done when we were close to the door. So from a neutral, if you've been a neutral about it, best of luck to them. I hope all their new players work out really well.
I can't help whenever we talk about West Ham, just thinking about how good a job David Moyes has done. How he's like just turned his career around. It was so good at Everton, United fail, Sunderland fail, Sociedad fail. It looked like he was like the kind of man. Paul Lambert. Paul Lambert was at Norwich, got Norwich up, solid in the Prem, went to Villa, kept us up for years, got sacked, and just gradually fell down the leagues. You could easily have thought that happened to Moyes, but he's got himself back up and he's solid again.
Even getting sacked from West Ham before. And
Dodge came back, didn't he? Yeah.
They had Pellegrini, didn't they? In between.
They tried. I don't think he got sacked, did he? I think they bought him in. Did they not bring him in for 6 months? And then it was everyone always thought he was going to get the next year, and they never gave it him. And so West Ham. Who else did we say?
I said United, but like if we rambled about how much they're spending, but if I look at the signings in focus, so you look at that squad before the window. There's so much that needs to be done. I still think a striker is needed.
Yes.
Because I stand by the fact that Ole's plan for United was to always get Sancho in, have him on one wing, Rashford on the other, have Cavani up front for that season, but gradually easing Greenwood. Obviously, Greenwood's gone, Cavani's gone. So, yeah, for obvious reasons. So the whole plan went out the window. Ronaldo got brought in. Rash. I stand by the fact that happened because City was sniffing around. And it would ruin the way that I genuinely think it would ruin the way that United are able to market Ronaldo as being a past legend if he went to City.
Definitely.
But anyway, there's a lot of improvement needed. Still need a striker, like I just said. Centre half was pivot. God, Lindelof and Maguire was so stale. You had Tuan Zebi, who they finally got rid of.
Even Varane was a bit stale.
Varane had a poor season. Question marks over him.
Shaw
clearly not good enough. Wan-Bissaka not good enough. So they got so much. Fair play. Dallow's come through. He started well. You still feel like
Dallow's a position to upgrade.
You still feel like he will not be in the side that United eventually want to get to.
But he is quite
Martinez, and they were saying this on Sky Sports, and I completely agree. You cannot put enough value on a player or players that the manager trusts to do a job. That's why Anthony, Martinez, these players, they might have been overpriced or whatever. The fact that Ten Hag trusts them is massive because he knows he's going to play for them. That's why he wants De Jong so much. You lose so much of that risk factor of a player that's unknown. Nunes, for a complete random example, he's coming into a Wolves side, he doesn't know any of the management staff, blah, 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 blah. Had never worked under Lage before, I'm fairly sure. But it's just a risk. He's completely under a new manager, he's never worked with him before. These Ajax players coming into United, they're going to know the system, they're going to know the training, they're going to know everything. Same with Arteta, Zinchenko and Jesus going to Arsenal. So I think Martinez coming in is a great sign. I think Anthony's coming in is a great signing. Casemiro, the backlash I saw on Casemiro. This bloke is a 5 times Champions League winner, just won it again. No sign of his legs going. I think such a good sign. You got one of the best DMs in the world through the door.
I think he also helps the other people around him a lot. Like, I mean, you see how Fred plays for Brazil. I mean, if you look at any highlights, Fred's a pivotal part of that Brazil team. It sounds silly to say when you think about Brazil, where they've got likes of obviously Neymar, Fabinho behind him, Casemiro. But Fred is so good for Brazil, and if Casemiro can bring even half of that out in him and make him half a better player, then I think you could be looking at a serious United midfield. Obviously,
Malacia
in there as well.
Malacia, we said Shaw weren't good enough. He's come in, maybe not got the pace, but he's got such good recovery, like a recovery tackle on him. I think it's great.
I think he's rapid, to be honest. I can't lie. I've seen him on his feet, and I think he's quick. I mean, he pocketed Salah like no man's business, didn't he, in that Liverpool game?
I just think it's just a great look. Everyone, the Eredivisie, we all know it's a toss up. You could get Suarez, you could get a Janssen. Like you never know what. It's not like the Spanish league where you've got this players who's been tested. These players, you're gambling, especially if you're going outside of Ajax. You're really gambling. Van der Beek didn't work, for example.
But I think you look at Van der Beek and you think there's like Ten Hag coming in, potentially could rely him. Maybe
I think we'd have seen him by now. More of him, I don't know.
I guess so, but then there's obviously something which the past 3 managers have seen in Van der Beek, which isn't getting him into that team over McTominay and Fred.
So what attributes does Van der Beek actually have? Like, what's he going to be good at?
Well, he's just sort of it confuses me his position because he plays best in like the 10, but then he isn't. He's not going to get in over Bruno. Yeah, exactly. He's not going to get in over Bruno Fernandes.
He just always seems to. All I know about Van der Beek is he just seems to pop up with goals, and that's Ajax Champions League semi-final season. Just pop up with goals out of nowhere.
But that's
Madrid,
the thing. He likes to get into the box late. If you watch him for Ajax, he's sort of like a. He can either play 10 or like as a. Like obviously centre
shadow
striker, but then he sort of just like gets in there and just arrives late.
So we've done our winners of the Premier League transfer window. Individual signings, you can list a few of them if you've got a few in mind. But what do you think is the one that for you is the key one, the one that stands out the most?
I think probably at the end of the season you'd be looking at, I'd say Jesus to Arsenal.
Yeah, I think those goals could be pivotal.
So I'm going to think of like a...
I think Jesus to Arsenal will be the one you're looking at. We can't argue the numbers of it.
I think Koulibaly's Chelsea's going to go right under the radar. They needed to replace Rudiger, and I think they've got a really good like-for-like player. Got a guy who can score from a corner. He's good with his feet. Yeah, he got a red card, but I think that game against Leeds for Chelsea was just a freak game.
But I think the other way you got to look at these signings though is we spoke a lot about money today, but Kamara for you boys,
that's what I was
turns out to be rubbish. You only lose his wages. He's turning out looks good.
Yeah,
he does
young, look very good.
Like you either. For me, that signing is a total win-win because if he lives out his contract, what is it, a 5-year deal?
Yeah.
You have 5 years of a fantastic player. If after 2 years he decides he's too good for you, there's money, isn't it?
My only worry about Kamara is it could have easily been a Max Meyer situation. I remember when Palace somehow, Max Meyer, free agent, massively sought after by clubs in Europe. Out of nowhere, Palace get him. They break their wage structure and just get Max Meyer in, and it was a complete disaster. That was my only worry about Kamara, but you can watch it. We watched 3-4 games with him, and you can tell he is the bollocks.
Yeah, like Kamara, Nick Pope, and my two trying to just two smart signings.
Yeah, I think you have got to value the smart signing. They're very rare.
I think another one as well probably was under the radar because it was technically a loan deal last year would be Romero on a permanent.
Oh yeah, just Spurs business structure in that sense.
But like Romero, I think you see him last season. This season, I feel like he's only going to get better. I mean, you seen him last season. I'd probably put him maybe top 3, top 4.
Kulusevski as well. They made permanent.
Yeah, exactly. Kulusevski looks incredible.
Basuma, we were
Basuma.
Right. Pre-season, we were all bigging up Spurs' transfer business. I don't think we've given them the time of day today in terms of transfer.
I didn't.
You never. To be fair, you never talked to him.
I didn't say it was bad. But it's not as like the players like Basuma, Richarlison, and that. I always said would have been unreal signings for a team like West Ham to make a team like.
No, I think you look at Basuma. Richarlison, I'm not convinced on, but Basuma, like if you actually watch how I played for Brighton, he was incredible. I think he could play for any team.
But I think this is where people have been a bit daft. Like Spurs, Conte, the players who have gone to Spurs, like Basuma and Richarlison, Conte will know their role, and they will know their own role as well. Like Richarlison might be a bit of a knob, but he'll have eyes to see Kulusevski, Sane and Kane. What I just said?
Sane and Kane.
Kulusevski, Son and Kane would leave him in a position where he's got to compete to start.
Yeah.
And equally, when he comes on, he's difficult. He came on against us, and I thought bloody hell, we've got. This isn't Spurs who stop after 60 minutes because the 11 lads who are on the pitch can't do it anymore. The ability of a club to be able to rotate your main midfielder. Do you know how hard that is to play against? Like, Højbjerg will terrorise you for 60 minutes. He's probably someone you always put down to get booked on your bet builders.
Yeah.
So and then they can throw Basuma on, and then equally come Christmas that can totally flip. That can change. Or Spurs now have the ability to go to a lower team and possibly make 4 or 5 changes. I know Conte doesn't always do it, but they can now do it.
Yeah,
so come when they then play Man City the week after, you get the best version of Spurs, and they've lacked that for years.
As well. From a tactical point of view, for example, that you say Basuma and Højbjerg. Personally, I'd say Basuma is more of an attacking player than Højbjerg. Both in the same similar role, but if I'm going against Spurs now the ability, if they're going to Southampton or they're going to Forest,
I agree with this.
They can put Basuma in. But if they're going to City a week later, they can put Højbjerg back in.
Yeah.
So
and I think that's where people need to look at Conte as the type of manager he is, and also look at what's let Spurs down. We always laugh on Twitter about Spurs bottle it, Spurs have crumbled. But they were always asking on the same players to perform for 90 minutes every week at the highest level. It's
impossible. They're relying on
impossible.
players like Harry Winks, who looks like
Do
Sampdoria.
you
know what I mean?
They'd have to start a game with Winks and Skipping, and you're asking them to come top four.
And players like Sissoko, who are only bought on the back of a Euros.
So Spurs can now break away from that, and I think that's what people have to respect. You look at Perisic, the crosses he put in against us.
You don't lose that. You don't lose
exactly. The bloke doesn't need to run. He just needs to stand on that left-hand side sort of thing. And as daft as that sounds, and there's always that idea of the older player passing on to the younger player.
We completely ignored Perisic being a great signing.
Yeah, and that's smart business as well. I think.
Was it on a free? Was it?
It was on a free with very little money.
Yeah,
very
little I think Spurs will. I don't think Richarlison will ever show you the numbers that warrant 60 mil, but I think come the end of the season, Spurs will look at the role he's played and the role Basuma's played, and they'll be very happy with
I've got one opinion about Spurs. It links their transfers, because I think it's as a result of their transfers. Arsenal have started brilliant, flawless, unbelievable. Spurs started really well. Got a good point against Chelsea where they wouldn't have in previous years.
Battle of the Bridge Part 2.
If they played now, Spurs and Arsenal, I'd have Spurs. I really fancy Spurs. Because I feel like Spurs will have a bit of the battle in them.
Yeah.
I'd still back Arsenal's quality, but
I feel like that game will be purely quality over shithousery battling, and then obviously quality comes into it.
Yeah.
But, I just feel like that Spurs team now is so much gritted. They've got Romero back to front. Romero, shithouse.
There's a real spine.
Højbjerg, shithouse. Richarlison, shithouse. You've got 3 players in there that boil piss at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And then you've got everyone else who works hard around them as well. You've got players who may not necessarily put in a big challenge, but they're chasing after every ball. They're winning their individual battles. So,
but obviously, breaking away from the big boys, they have obviously their window every year is important. Yeah. But we now look Fulham done enough to stay up.
I think
their business has been savvy.
What you said about Fulham being Premier League savvy, I'm pretty sure you said it on the first podcast, and I think that's one of the better shouts that's been said, because clearly they're different. They ain't going to be rolled over the season.
No, I think that's
if they go down, it'll be down to an injury or really bad run of form out of nowhere. But they look like they're going to fight. Mitrovic, I stand by the fact, I stood by the fact that if Mitrovic gets a service, you don't suddenly score 40 goals in the Championship and then they dry up in the Prem.
That's how we were saying about Mopé as well before, wasn't it? Mopé's
you give Mopé the service, I'm sure he'd do it.
I was just like thinking then to myself, okay, Bournemouth, Forest, Fulham. Who after that is actually you would say could go down?
This relegation battle.
Because everyone's improved.
No one's safe.
Everton and Villa. Those are the next two.
Well, that's where you start thinking like Villa. Everyone's nice and calm, like the neutrals. Easily, you could any club mid-table could easily sleepwalk into it this season.
Well, we got 2 points.
The team should associate that would normally be like, they could go down. Palace not going to go down. Brighton
Palace,
not going to go down. Southampton not going to go down.
Newcastle.
Southampton.
Saints will have their better.
Okay, maybe Southampton. Newcastle. Not going to go down.
Newcastle are out of the conversation now.
Exactly.
They're not a relegation side.
Exactly. They were last season.
Newcastle are always going to be in a position now where things are looking a bit ropey around January. You can get in a big name or you can throw some serious
get some steel in.
Yeah.
Give Ben Pearson a gig.
Yeah. But no, I completely get what you're saying I completely get what you're saying, sorry. So, final section of the podcast, weekly now. 2 Banks of Forecast, where we predict the scores. We've got a league table going.
And I get them wrong.
This week, Editor Ed is going to flash up a graphic of the league table right now in the middle of me and Cal right here at the current standings. But I'll just read it out to you as well. I'm on 25. Adam's second with 11, but has missed a week.
Game in hand.
We'll let him have that game in hand. We'll let him have that game in hand. Liam is third with 9. He's never present as well as myself.
Playing every week.
James Batch, you might remember him from a couple of episodes ago, 5 points. And Aki is on 8, but again, missed a couple of episodes now. We'll figure out a way to catch everyone up. But yeah, this week's fixtures are as follows, and Kallum Lane's going to be into this. We
could possibly, they just call it the 4th chair.
Yeah. We could easily.
You're playing for the 4th chair.
Yeah.
And we'll see whether they can beat us.
Anyway, we kick things off on Saturday, 12:30, and we'll go without any real description till the end, and we can reflect on some of the big ones. Everton versus Liverpool.
At Everton.
At Everton. 3-0 Liverpool.
I go Union Liverpool, so I hear a lot of this chat, Everton Liverpool. Sadly, Everton do look rubbish, so Liverpool 2 now.
think it's murder on a dance floor for Frank. I think it's time. I
know you had that one prepared.
I think this could be the one where like everyone says Twitter erupts, Facebook erupts, Instagram. Goodison's toxic. I'm going 4-0 Liverpool.
You know what? I think I'm gonna go a bit out there with 2-2 draw.
Ooh, nice.
I think maybe just a bit of Everton magic at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Draw.
Next up, Brentford Leeds. Actually, a weirdly toxic fixture. They don't like each other.
Both shit clubs.
Shit. Let's go with Leeds 2-1.
Probably a game you'd avoid on your ACCA, I imagine.
Yeah.
I think Brentford will do a job on Leeds 1-0.
I'm going to go 1-1.
I think I'll go 2-1 Brentford.
Chelsea host West Ham, London derby.
3-0 Chelsea. I don't think West Ham looked that good against us. We were just obviously even worse. So.
Valid that West Ham haven't looked that great so far. I'm going to go 1-1.
2-1 Chelsea for me.
I think I'll go 3-0 Chelsea.
Newcastle at home to Palace.
I think that's going to be a 2-1 Newcastle.
No, I'm going to back Palace here. 2-0 Palace.
I'm going to 2-1 Palace.
I think I'll go 1-1 draw on that one.
Forest at home to Bournemouth. Could be a massive game, this.
No, I back Bournemouth. I feel like it's just 2-1 Bournemouth.
Bournemouth to stop the rot, 0-0.
Nah, Forest statement, 3-0.
Yeah, I think Forest will win 1-0.
That's not a bad chance.
Spurs host Fulham, another London derby.
4-1 Spurs.
Part of me wants to say Fulham to disrupt. Professional job from Spurs, 3-0.
Sorry, I'll move on to the next one. I think 1-0 Spurs, Harry Kane, penalty 85th minute.
I think a little cheeky 2-1 Fulham.
Love it, Carl, welcome.
Wolves host Southampton.
Wolves host Southampton. 1-1.
I think a fixture that needs to put respect on the Wolves' perspective of if we lose this, it's an awful start.
Yeah.
We need to actually have some serious conversations. I'm going to be naive, I'm going to be overconfident. Wolves 3, Southampton 0. The season starts on the weekend for Bruno and the boys.
I'm going 2-0 Saints.
I think I'm
Fuck yeah.
I'm just going to go. I'm going to have to reverse Liam. 3-0 Spurs. No, 3-0 Southampton. Sorry.
Wow. Aston Villa host City.
Under
the lights.
Do you want his prediction? Villa, we beat Arsenal, and then we go out and lose like 9-0 to City. That's what I said. 9-0 Man City. Exactly. 9-0 Man
So what?
City.
You're Arsenal then City.
Yeah. So by the time this is out, we'll have played Arsenal tomorrow.
Villa to score, but City 3-1.
I was going to say
2-0 City.
I'm going to go 4-1 City.
Okay. 2 more games. Oh, is it 2 or 3? 2 more games. Brighton host Leicester. Big game for Leicester this.
It's only going one way, I think.
2-1 Leicester.
Oh, 2-0 Brighton.
1-1.
I think I'll go 3-0 Brighton. I think Leicester look really poor.
And topping off a good weekend, actually, of Premier League football, I think. United host Arsenal in the late game on Sunday.
0-0 written all over it.
That's all.
United to crumble, to swing back to me on TikTok clips. Arsenal 3, Man United 0.
2-1 Arsenal.
I think it'd be 2-1 United.
And so they're the predictions. Last week we went for a rash player that we think to score. None of them came in.
No way.
Yeah. One player, Premier League player, has to be within reason. Unlikely goal scorer. If they score, what was it? 3
points, 5
points.
I'm gonna have mine early actually. And it doesn't make any sense because I've gone
Bournemouth game to be 0-0, but we've mentioned his name all podcast. Ben Pearson to bang on the weekend.
Fair play.
I'm going to go for... I'll come for me last. I need to actually think who's playing.
I'm going to go for... Oh my god. I'm going to go for someone really rash. Oh my god, I had an idea in my head. I was going to go for some Webster, Brighton.
Adam Webster.
Yeah.
I'll go Kurt Zuma.
Kurt Zuma, I love it.
Kicks cats.
Nathan Ake.
Oh, I can see that. But anyway, that's that. Another episode down.
Yeah,
Bit of a longer one this time.
We apologise. There's no more festivals in the calendar. We'll be back next week.
Yeah, bit of a longer one. We had to catch up on 2 weeks worth of football. So yeah, thanks Cal for coming on.
Mate. Show Cal some love in the comments. And we'll get him on again if you want him back.
If any of the Dynasty lot that have watched because of Cal will have lasted this long, then wrong camera. Then fair play. Subscribe.
Again,
thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it.